Well, I'm excited for this week's guest. It's Zach Byrd. He became the new coach at the Purdue University women's golf coach after taking over for Devon Brouse, who was there over 25 years. Zach, appreciate you spending some time. You're in the middle of qualifying. Thanks for spending a little time with us today.
We are. We're out on a beautiful Labor Day morning doing some qualifying right now. So sorry for the wind in the background.
No, it's Indiana. I grew up there. We expect some wind over there. It's the fall. You got to have some conditions to get them ready. But you've kind of hit the road running after taking over earlier this summer. We'll get to that in a moment. But I always like to have our guests kind of give us a little background. I know the background, but a lot of our listeners don't. Tell us what it was like for Zach Byrd growing up. Who got you started playing golf? Who were some of your early influences before you headed to college?
Yeah. So I grew up in North Carolina and went to the golf course to get out of my mom's hair. Usually my dad would take me and we, I just kind of fell in love with it. Started whacking it around when I was 2 years old with cross-handed, cut down golf clubs and eventually they moved me to conventional and doing it the right way. And I just kind of took off with it. I played golf and baseball growing up, but golf was kind of the passion, and we switched to golf only about 14 years old when I knew that we couldn't do both at a high level. It would be very hard to do both at a high level. So, really decided I wanted to play college golf and kind of see where the career took me. So we moved down to the Myrtle Beach area when my father retired. Back, I guess I was probably 11 years old. And it was on after that. A lot of junior tournaments and a lot of traveling around the Carolinas. So it was fun and fortunate enough to get a college scholarship and played at Coastal Carolina University, went on to play professionally, and I just couldn't get away from college golf, so I had to come back and start coaching it. So it's been a fun road, and golf's taken me to some pretty incredible places professionally and now as a college coach. So excited to get up here and get to work in West Lafayette.
Well, a couple of things you said. It was interesting, cross-handed. And you see a lot of kids when they start because they're looking at their parents or whoever is like in a mirror. So they kind of pick it up cross-handed. At what age did you kind of go to conventional? You mentioned you kind of switched it over. What age? How long did they let you go cross-handed?
I think it was like probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
They finally got me convinced. We grew up in a very middle class type area, and we would go to the municipal course, and I think the pro at the municipal course was the one that finally convinced me to go standard. And then after that, we got me into playing some tournaments when I was about 7 years old. So, it went from just hacking it around to actually trying to take it serious and doing it the right way. I did baseball grip until I was about 12 or 13, and I worked with Mike Schroeder as a kid, and Mike was like, look, we're going to have to change that. So that was probably about 12 or 13 years old, right when I started doing, golf for full time. I went from baseball grip to a normal grip, and that took some time as well.
Yeah, how long did that take? Because that's a big deal. Here's a story for you. My wife, who played with the overlap for her whole life, broke her wrist. And she's in her 40s, and she went to crosshand and wins the state am a month later. I mean, that's a big adjustment.
It didn't take me. It took me a lot longer than that.
Well, I figured.
It was a summer of working with Mike constantly, of trying to get it comfortable going from a 10-finger to an interlock, and that was when I was questioning, maybe I need to start playing baseball more.
Yeah.
It was hard for me. I've got small hands, and, the baseball grip, I'd hit a huge draw, and, obviously Mike's been around, he knows what he's doing. And he was like, look, that's not going to work when you're trying to play college golf. You can't just be the guy that hits the low draw all the time. So small hands, it took me a little while to get used to it, and it was really weak at the beginning, and I remember it was not a lot of fun that summer. But then after that, we were we were ready to roll. So
it's funny you said that because Allie McDonald, who's on the LPG, I think Bob Estes, they were still baseball grip. And Kathleen, my daughter who played at LSU, who you know, she was baseball grip because of an injury.
Right.
You don't see it often,
Right.
and I have small hands as well, so I went interlock. But there's a couple players that were pretty good players in their career. Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods went interlock, so I guess it was a pretty good choice for you.
It was. I definitely started playing a little bit more consistently after that, but I fought them the whole way.
Oh, I bet.
But, definitely got me to a guy that could actually hit a draw and a fade at the same time.
Yeah, my dad, I think it was after my freshman year in college, says you got to go to overlap. You can't keep using interlock. And I tried it, and I shot 87-80 at the Olympic Club in the USAM. And it was either I was quitting or I was going back. So it was kind of a bad move with someone at that age to do it.
Right, that's hard. I mean, at least I was young enough that we could get it done I wasn't playing in the USAM at the time.
You may be the U.S. Junior, but you're not at the AM.
Yeah.
You mentioned Coastal Carolina. You played with Dustin Johnson, but you were a good player as well. Y'all made it to the NCAAs. You're in the Coastal Carolina Hall of Fame. What was that experience like playing college golf? Like you said, you kind of loved baseball and you kind of wanted to play college golf. You kind of got in there. What was your college experience like?
It was good. We had a great team. It was kind of that first blast of great teams at Coastal, and we had obviously DJ's. He's fairly good.
Yeah, he's pretty decent.
Unbelievable in college. Occasionally he'd just wake up and say, I'm gonna win this week by 15, and he'd go win by 15. And it was just like it was pretty ridiculous to watch. And then we had a couple players that went on and played European Tour, Asian Tour, and then I played 10 years all over the world. And so we had a really cool team, and we finished 5th at Nationals my junior year, but we were top 25 the whole time I was there. So, it was cool to play at a small school and, walk fairways with the big boys. And I'll never forget, we were walking Golden Horseshoe. We were up near the lead in Nationals my junior year, and people were yelling, go Chance. And I'm like, well, it's Chance, but we'll take what we can get. It was so crazy that we were up there playing and people actually knew who Coastal was. So it really felt like we left a cool legacy there. So it was a great experience to go kind of build something there and leave us a legacy, which is something you don't often get to do.
Yeah, Augusta College did pretty good small school there too.
Yep.
They had a pretty good run.
Absolutely.
And that's the beauty of college golf. But when did you start thinking about turning pro?
It was always in my mind. I got injured my senior year, tore my ACL over Thanksgiving break, and it just kind of clicked after that. Like I sat out that whole spring season, and I'm like, my Lord, I miss this. It's like you're traveling around, you can't play your own crutches. It drives you insane. And, I really realized then, I'm like, man, I love this game. This is fun. This is what I want to do. So I came back from that injury and had a great year. I finished second like every freaking week because I couldn't beat Matt Hill. He won like every tournament that year. And, I had a good year. I was an All-American that last year. It got me into a lot of those big amateur events. I was, I didn't make the Walker Cup, but I was at least in the conversations. And, so it really kind of fired me up to want to turn pro and give it a run. So we did it. And, back then you had the Hooters Tour that, was in the Carolinas. I didn't have to travel a ton. It was great. You could make a decent living and then save your money up and go to Q school and see what you do there. But, those days are unfortunately gone. Those tours are mostly out of here now, where you could make a good living on not a big entry fee. And, so it was fun. And I finally kind of got my career going and went over to South Africa for probably 7 or 8 years after I turned pro, and had a great year, but we had our second child in the middle of that season, and just everybody always is like, you'll know when to say when, you'll know when. And I'm like, I'm never going to say when. Like, I'm going until I make it.
Yeah.
And got on a plane to go play the European Tour event 7 days after my second child was born, and I'm like, man, what are you doing? Like,
yeah,
it was that aha moment. Like, I had a great season. I'd spent like $30 on airfare, or $30,000 on airfare that year.
Wow.
So, all the money I'm making on the golf course, I'm just chucking it right back to Delta, because I'm flying back and forth to Africa and Europe because I want to see my kid and I want to see my wife.
Sure.
And then once we had that second child, it was like, man, this is just not what it used to be. And so I finished that season out. I played, honestly, pretty well. I missed the cut that week, obviously, because I had not slept for 7 days. But
and you haven't slept since.
I went back over there. Yeah, no, I have not. That is for sure. I have not. I do when I get to travel and go play in tournaments. My poor wife, she never sleeps. But at least when I recruit and go to play tournaments, I can sleep. So yeah, I finished that season out, and I had full status in Africa. I had pretty decent status on the European Tour at that time, and my wife and I she was the number one supporter. I married way over my head. I don't know how I got so lucky to find her, and she was never going to say stop.
Yeah,
but we had that conversation of what do we do? And, obviously I'm not going to move you and 2 kids under 2 to Africa.
Right.
So I could travel, from Africa to Europe and those sort of things. So the backup plan was always college coaching. It's always
really?
what I wanted to do. I love it. We had toyed with it 3 or 4 times in my career. It was always the one thing I wanted to get into if I wasn't playing professionally. And just finally, it was that moment was like, okay, like, I think this is time to really start pursuing the second part of my life in golf. And
where was the coolest place you played? When you think back of that, there had to be some pretty cool places traveling the world like that. Great experience, but traveling with 1 or 2 kids, I can't imagine. I did it on the tour, which was easy.
Yeah, no, it would have been impossible with kids. I'd say Cape Town, South Africa is probably my favorite place I've ever been. Really good golf over there. Fan court too in South Africa. I mean, if I could live anywhere else in the world, it'd probably be South Africa.
Wow.
I absolutely loved it over there.
Okay.
Just the golf's incredible. It's their number one sport over there, so they are just golf fanatics. The golf courses are great. It's safer than what you read in the newspaper. I lived over there for a year, and I loved it. But it is a beautiful country. Obviously, I like playing in Europe. Dominican Republic's hard to beat.
Yeah.
Played Teeth of the Dogs, probably my favorite golf course in the world. That was hard to beat. I played some in South America. That's some pretty cool places in Colombia, Chile. But I'd say Cape Town's probably, that one takes the cake.
When you look back, who gave you your first start in coaching? You said you've always thought about it, but who gave you your first start? Was it Colorado State?
Yeah, it was Colorado State. So I'd say probably early August. I mean, it was getting down to the point where I had already joined the European Tour and the Sunshine Tour again, basically thinking that I was going to be going back because I had just not found anything in May, June, or July. And I'd say it's probably it was very late July when somebody had said, "Oh, well, hey, Laura is going to get the Colorado State job. You should call her." So she's the one that opened the door for me at Colorado State, which is a really cool spot in the country too.
Yeah.
Fort Collins is a fun town. And then, a few months later, I get a call from Ole Miss, and that's hard to turn down for a Southern boy to get back into the SEC. So they were they called, and so I was only in Colorado State for a very short time, and moved to Oxford. We packed up the moving truck and moved from South Carolina to Colorado in August, and then Colorado to Mississippi in January. So my wife is, like I said, she's a rock star.
She's like mine. They don't mind the adventure.
Yeah, thankfully, I think she's adventured out at this
Yeah.
point. We just built a house in Oxford and moved in November.
Oh wow.
And then and she loved it. Like it was,
Yeah.
she got to put the finishing touches on it. She got to, design some of the lighting and the stone, like the marble and all this stuff. So she, this place was kind of like her little baby, and she got to design some of it. And then I'm like, all right, so how do you feel about packing everything up and moving again?
Mm.
So I think she's over the adventure. I think she's ready to stay in one place for a little while.
I think so. Yeah, that is a tough deal for sure. But when you talked about coaching, now you're coaching on the women's side, and that's always different. Of course, maybe that's why the good Lord gave you two daughters. Maybe that's part of it too. So,
yes.
But
and that's a big reason why I wanted to stay on the girls' side.
Okay.
I want my kids to grow up, in a locker room.
Mm-hmm.
I can't exactly put them in a locker room of a guy's locker room.
No, that would probably work. That wouldn't be a very good idea.
No. And I mean, they certainly at Ole Miss, they were spending more time in the locker room than they were in Daddy's office. And it's probably going to be very much the same here, so that was always something that when I first got into it, I had really decided I really wanted to go on the women's side because of having two daughters. I wasn't against the guys' side, but I was trying to pursue more options on the women's side. And I'm very happy with that decision now, 5 years into this. It's been very enjoyable. I think, the women's side, they want to learn, they want to work, they want to get better. They listen. It's just a fun group to get into because they're just so eager to get better and learn. So it's a really fun side to be on coaching wise. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and my kids are safe in the locker room.
Yeah, well,
I don't have to worry about what they might hear. So it's been a big reason why we did it, and I'm very happy my daughters are learning from great role models.
Well, I think I've talked to Garrett Runyon, who you know at LSU. That was a big transition for him because he said the game's so much different. It would probably be for you too because you played at such a high level, and he's because guys just go for things. And like you hit on a couple things I think are so true that they want to learn and they will listen. Yeah, they're going to challenge you, but they want to learn. They're so just much into learning and getting better. And it's fun to be a coach, I would think, when people are willing to listen and try to get better. And I think you're so good at it. I think that's part of it as well. But you said you got to Oxford, which is a beautiful place. You all had some great success. You win an SEC championship, an NCAA championship. What was that like when you and Corey kind of turned that program around so quickly and having that great success? Because that was a great run you all were on.
Yeah. It was fun. I mean, Corey she had turned it around and got it rolling before I got there. And, I think maybe the fact that I had played professionally, I could teach them a few different shots. I could, walk through what it's like to be 500 and want to go to 600 instead of be 500 and just want to stay at 500. Those little conversations that we had, I think was really helped us go a little bit further. Corey had done so much by the time I got there. It was like, geez, you were ranked 100 and what 3 years ago? How?
Yeah.
How was that possible?
Yeah.
And then, getting that short game facility that they got down there, I walked in at a phenomenal time because, there's just so many things that you can teach around that short game facility of bump and runs, of how to hit different shots, of how to short side yourself and get out of it properly and not make a big number. So it was just it was a fun time, and she had done a phenomenal job of recruiting the right type of players. They're going to be great this year, I believe. I really think they're going to be one of the best teams in the country. And Corey and I still talk 3 or 4 times a week about our teams, and it's a really cool relationship her and I built there. So, I'm a Ole Miss fan unless they're playing us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what would you say you learned in those 3 or 4 years in Oxford that'll help you now at Purdue?
Yeah, she's a great recruiter. I kind of learned her recruiting tactics. Not going to go too much into that because I don't want everybody else to know.
No.
But, I just think that I learned a lot of how, she was great with team rules and things that, we have to abide by the rules. You have to carry yourself in practice the same way you want to carry yourself in a tournament, the same way, off the golf course, on the golf course. Just the way she had them following rules and it was awesome. So I learned a lot of how to deal with things. She was never one to let things fester. She would hit it head on. If there's an issue going on the team, hit that thing head on and let's take care of it. Those are little things that I could sit in on those meetings that's helping me now as a head coach of, hey, well, we need to hit this hard now and not wait, and let it fester out of control, because you spend a lot of time with these people. You need to like them. You need to love them. That's why I think that's why that team won a national championship. They loved each other more than any other team in the country. Mm-hmm. And they had spent, we'd spend 9 months together nonstop. And at the end of that, they were still best friends going to nationals. And not a lot of teams can say that. There's always something going on inside a team that you don't know about.
Sure.
That team loved each other, and that team went to war for each other every day. It's what you want to build. Like, that's your dream scenario. Mm-hmm. And she's done a great job of that and really passed on a lot of the stuff that you don't see on the golf course to me, of how to handle things and how to earn their respect, keep them, working hard throughout the year and keep them close and liking each other enough to want to go to war for each other every day.
That's a challenge, because think about, and you've seen it, you've done it, you've been in it. Roommates are going at it for the last spot. I mean, David Thomas told a funny story. I tell this on almost every podcast because it's so fun to relive it. The 2 roommates are playing for the last spot. The other one wins. The guy that loses puts a big strip of tape down the middle of the room. He says, you can't cross this side of the room. And the guy goes, well, the bathroom's over on that side. He says, tough, you're going to have to go outside or go somewhere else. It's not quite that bad, but it could get to that point. And I think that is, chemistry comes natural. But something you said I thought was very sharp is, I think it's like raising kids like you're doing, fair and consistency, discipline will work. I think we've got away from that as a society. You've got to have some rules. You got to have boundaries. Or you have chaos. What was the toughest part the year after winning? Was it personal expectations? Because that's always a challenge for whether you win as a professional or you play as a team, is that next year we have these high hopes. What were some of the challenges?
I think that team was so good at being the underdog.
Yeah.
Like, they loved being the underdog. That just fed them in the locker room. It was incredible. Kennedy's like a little pit bull.
Yeah.
And she loved it. Julia was the same way during that year. She would get so mad when people weren't giving them the respect that they felt like they deserved. Mm-hmm. And it fed them weekly to drive harder. And then, you reach that pinnacle and it's like, whoa, well, we're not that underdog anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to beat us now. I think it just took a little bit of time. And, we lost 3 starters, essentially.
True.
Smilla turned pro.
Yep.
Kennedy left. And Ellen Hume had surgery. So, we went into that season thinking we only lost Kennedy. And 2 months into the season, we lost 3 of the 5 that were walking down the fairways at nationals. And that's what people, I think, forget about.
Yeah.
That's a big hit. When you think you're only losing one and you lose three, and, you know, Ellen Hume shoots 24 under, I think, in the first qualifying for 6 rounds, hits it in a divot at the first event, tries to dig it out, and her shoulder re-aggravates, and she has to have surgery.
Is that how she hurt? Is that how she hurt herself? Wow.
Yeah, it was a totally freak thing. She hit it in a divot on the 11th hole on the second round, which was her second hole. And it was just like back how it was at SEC's the year before.
Mm.
You know, that girl has had the worst luck of anybody I've been around because of the shoulder.
Yeah.
And, you know, now that she's had it surgically repaired, I think she's going to come out gangbusters this year and dominate college golf. People don't understand how good she is because she hasn't
been able to show them.
Been in that spot.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm telling you, she's probably one of the most talented people I've ever been around.
Wow.
So you lose those 3 players, that's a huge hit. And it's, you know, Kiara and Andrea threw them on their back, but, you know.
That's a lot of pressure on them. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure on them. It's a lot of pressure on the new ones.
Yeah.
That were just coming in thinking, well, this year I'm going to learn a lot and get better. Oh, by the way, you're in the lineup.
Yeah.
You know, you're playing for the defending national champion, and you better get going.
Right.
So it was just you know, it was one of those deals in coaching that there's nothing that I don't think there's anything Corey and I could have done differently last year.
No.
It just kind of handed a tough set of cards, and we did what we could. And, you know, it was really disappointing to not make it back there. I think that was hard for them to not get back there as a defending champion. But they're going to be,
they'll
be
just
this year.
fine.
I can almost guarantee you that you'll see them back there this year.
Yeah. So what I noticed about you, you tend to stay with maybe one player the whole round, or maybe I'm dreaming. I saw that. Is that part of your coaching philosophy? What's your theory on that when you're out coaching? Do you stay with the one player, or do you go with whoever, if they need to sit on a par 3? What's your coaching philosophy going to be at Purdue now that you're the head coach?
Honestly, kind of, you know, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those that's set into one way of doing it, because I think when you do that, then that just kind of pigeonholes you into not having options. You know, if a player tells me she needs me to walk with her, I'm going to do my best to walk with her. If the team feels like that they need a coach on a par 3, I'm going to try to do that. You know, I've got a great assistant coach here that played here. She's got a good relationship with a lot of the older girls. She was on the same team with them. She might be one that wants to go out. Oh, hey, I've played 700 rounds of golf with Danielle. Why don't I go walk with her today? So, you know, I really don't know what we're going to do. You know, Ole Miss, you know, Corey and I kind of had our players that we were closer to and we worked better with, and we knew that. And it took a little bit of time to figure out who worked better with who. And I think it's just going to kind of be the same thing for me here. It's just going to take me, you know, a semester to figure out if Lauren's better with this person or if I'm better with this person. And we'll just kind of go tournament by tournament and figure it out.
What's it like take over a program? You know, Devon was there for 25 years. You're coming in, the new coach. You've got the players. You're trying to get players to stay. What was that? What were some of those challenges when you first took over?
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's like any new job. You got to figure out the schedule. You got to figure out the clothes, and you got to figure out the players. You got to do it quick. You know, so it was, you know, we changed the schedule around quite a bit in the spring, and I wanted to get them into some stronger fields and some different parts of the country, because, you know, the last thing you want is to get a regional and in the desert. You've never been to the desert.
True.
Or get a regional in Florida and you've only gone to Florida one time, you know. So I really tried to change the schedule around a bit. So we changed the spring around quite a bit. So we're all over the place.
Are you heavier in the spring or the fall on your schedule? Because a lot of coaches, and I didn't really realize this, John Field says, you know, my kids are tired when they come in after the summer. So we're not that strong early in the fall.
Yeah, we don't play until late September.
Okay.
I've only got 4 in the fall, and then I've got 6 in the spring. I like to hit the spring as hard as possible, just because I think if you start playing well, and
Yeah.
you get on a little bit of a run. You get 6 regular season events in the spring, and then you jump into postseason. You're very sharp. So we're doing 4, and then we're doing 6 in the spring.
You talked about recruiting. You've done a lot of recruiting internationally. Purdue has had a lot of international flair, a lot of players from all over the world on their team. What's it? You got a little bit behind in recruiting. Of course, that's the future of that. But what can you say about Purdue? You've only been there a month or so. What does Purdue have to offer? I know that the golf courses growing up in Indiana, I used to play those golf courses because they've been redone. Tell us about the facilities there.
Yeah, so we're, the big draw for me here was how much they care about golf. I mean, it's not the case in a lot of places. A lot of places care about your big sports, and they don't really care about the Olympic sports. They just go get your grades and stay eligible. But here it was really apparent that they want to win and that they're passionate about winning. The golf courses are unbelievable. You don't really get 2 courses you can walk from the dorms to. So you've got 2 great golf courses that are totally different. And then, we've got a great practice facility that's private on the back of the range. And then we've got 10 indoor hitting bays. So obviously, it's cold. We get that. So we've got 10 indoor hitting bays that you can house both men's and women's at the same time. We've got a indoor putting green that's bigger than most outdoor putting greens across the country, that we can roll it one way and get it rolling about a 10, and we can roll it the other way and slow it down just depending on where we're going the next week. The facilities are excellent, and they're putting in a $26 million new clubhouse.
Wow. That
will be hopefully ready by regionals. The guys are hosting regionals in 24. So the goal is to have that ready by that time. It's going to have a private area just for the team. That's going to have a dining area for the team. We're going to have a new gym put in at the golf course. We just hired our own strength coach. So he only works with men's and women's golf. That was a huge draw for me.
That's big time help.
I felt like that's something that, I think Texas does it.
Yep.
I don't really know if there's any other team in the country that does it.
I think Baylor may do that now. I know they do on the men's. I think Baylor may. They just started it, though. That's unusual because that's where a lot of kids get hurt, don't you think? Because they've got coaches playing other sports.
And that's what, this guy came from Duke. Obviously, he knows what he's doing. He's been a part of a lot of national championships at Duke. And, but he was not just golf at Duke. It was golf. But then he also had wrestling. He had baseball. He had tennis. His passion is golf.
Okay.
And he wanted to be just golf. And, they approached him this year with the realignment of our programs of, hey, we can make this work and we can give you just golf and you can do what your passion is. So hiring somebody like Alex just shows you the commitment that they have here to be great. They pitched it to me in my interview of, it doesn't need to be a question in the Midwest anymore of who your team is if you want to go play high level golf. Like it should be Purdue, and then you start trying to find somebody else.
Right.
That's their goals. So, hiring him was a big deal. His big thing was, if I'm coming, I need a gym that I can walk to from my office. So in that renovation of the clubhouse, they're going to renovate us a building that's already here that's being used more for banquets because they won't need it.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have banquet halls in the new clubhouse, and they're going to put a gym in there that they're going to let him design. So, that's just such a cool thing that you can show a recruit and say, look, like, let's talk about injury prevention for a second. You want to go somewhere that you're going to have somebody take care of your body? It's here. Alex is a trained professional in the golf world that is going to make sure you are doing golf-specific workouts to help you stay healthy and have a better base for your golf swing. So it's a really cool thing that they're doing here, and I think something that not a lot of places are going to offer. So it's huge for recruiting.
That's a game changer. That's a total game changer, big time.
It really is. It really is. their goal with the facility, they want to host a USAM here. They want to host a tour event here. Like, they have big goals on the golf side of things here now with this new pro shop going in and clubhouse going in. So, it's a really cool, everything you roll it all into one package, and it's like, man, this is almost too good to be true. And they're, all of it's coming to fruition here, and it's a great time for me to get in here, because it's going to make me look good in recruiting in a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then the Big Ten, a lot of schools have their own courses, facilities. That's kind of a cool part of it. But talk about recruiting. What are you looking for in a player when you're out there? For our listeners, maybe the kids that are listening, their parents, what are some of the things you're looking for when you're recruiting players?
Yeah, I don't always just look at scores and rankings. I look at the person. I look at, how they treat their families, how they treat officials, how do they treat, if you snipe hook one left off a tee and official's coming down there to help you drop and you bite his head off, well, that wasn't his fault that you hit it over there. That was your fault. How do you treat other people around you? So that's a big part of I really want the culture here to be like the culture was at Ole Miss. It took some time at Ole Miss to get that culture. I know it's going to take some time here, but, I really care about the type of person that I recruit. I really don't have a area of the map that I'm circling that I'm only going to recruit. I'm thinking about taking some trips to Asia this fall. I'm thinking about, maybe going down to South America. I've been pounding the ground here locally in Indiana.
There's a lot of good talent in Indiana now.
There's a lot of good talent that I don't want to slip out of Indiana. And so, I care a lot about character when I am recruiting. So that's a big deal. I like somebody that's tough. I like somebody that you might double the first hole, but you get it back because you don't let it slip away from you, and you can settle yourself and keep a good attitude and keep grinding. So those are things that I really.
So you're looking for a Kennedy Swan or a Julia Johnson type player, is what you're saying?
Those are the goal. Is you can only find a few of those. Kiara is one of those that if I could clone her and Kennedy and Julia and bring them to Purdue, then you're gonna get good in a hurry. Just based on the type of person. You get somebody that wants to play at Purdue, that wants to get better, that wants to work hard. We're going to give you the resources here to be great. And it's just, just a matter of you as a person wanting to put the work in.
Well, one question I always ask my guests, I know you're busy, you got a qualifier, you got a lot going on. What separates that elite player? What makes that elite golfer elite? You've coached those elite players. You've played with Dustin Johnson. You've been an elite player. What separates that elite player from the rest?
Mindset.
Okay.
I think, I tell everybody, look, in this qualifier, if you're going to just make the team, if you're playing to just make the team, you're probably not going to make the team. In my career, once I figured out, hey, I don't need to just go play to make the cut. I need to go play to win. You might not win every week, but you made the cut, and you gave yourself your chances on the weekends. Those mindsets of not just I just want to make the lineup. I just want to make the cut. Those are killer. That's what trying to make the cut is going to make you miss the cut by 2 shots.
That's about all you're going to do is make the cut.
In my career.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Mindset of somebody that goes out and tries to win, that separates somebody. I mean, that was Dustin's thing. Like Dustin, he would get in trouble. He'd do something he wasn't supposed to. Our coach would get mad, and he would be like, all right, guys, well, I probably should win this week. I screwed up. And he would go win. And it was the most unbelievable thing to me. And I didn't realize it until – obviously I got into my professional career, and I changed my mindset around from just trying to make the cuts to trying to win. I'm like, Dustin went into every week and he thought he was going to win. That's why he was so good.
Yeah.
It makes total sense, but it doesn't make total sense when you're 16 years old.
No.
Or when you're 18.
No, a lot of things don't make sense then.
So it was like, it was like that aha moment for me. I'm like, oh, well, that's what he used to do. Why am I tromping around South Africa just trying to make a cut when I could go try to win?
Right.
So I think mindset really, that's what separates the elite.
That's a great way to answer it. One last thing. How can the players or their parents get a hold of you? How can they find Zach Byrd when they're trying to get in touch with you to check out Purdue?
Yeah, social media is huge for me. Instagram, Twitter. Obviously, my email's on the website too. But I'm a lot better with social media than I am with emailing. My assistant has learned that. She's like, just forward me all the emails and I'll handle the rest of that stuff.
Perfect.
So,
well, that's how I kept in touch with you for a while. You're right. You're big time on it. That's a big part of coaching now is social media.
It is. I can assure you 10 years ago, I never thought I'd have an Instagram page. But,
me neither.
You kind of have to adapt with how the world's going. And so now I've got an Instagram page. So.
Well, I never dreamed I'd be doing a podcast either from a closet in the state of Mississippi.
There you go. So, yeah, things are certainly changing, and you got to evolve or you get run over.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate you spending some time with us. I know you're busy. Good luck to Purdue. I know you said you start the end of September. Get out there and get those ladies ready for the qualifier, and we're going to keep an eye on you. We look forward to
down in your neck of the woods. We come to Tennessee first.
Oh, do you? Knoxville? Okay.
I'll be calling you for some advice on those golf courses.
Well, you call me anytime. Well, I appreciate it. Good luck to you, and thanks for spending some time with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you. We appreciate Coach Byrd spending some time with us. Was one of the good guys in women's college golf. He's going to be very successful at Purdue. Check him out this season and see how he's going to get that program going in the right direction. And we appreciate you being with us today. As I always kind of like to end it, whether in golf or life, you may have only one shot. You got to make it count. And don't forget to get your copy of Only One Shot. That's available on Amazon, written by VJ Trolio, the teaching pro at Old Waverly Golf Club. And thanks to Steve Azar for allowing us to use his music. And you can find Steve at steveazar.com. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, I'm Jim Gallagher, and we'll talk to you later.
What were you thinking on that play? Take a lap, and when you come back, maybe you'll do